This is Good Morning Uganda.
Tompa birala mpa irisiti yange kyekyo kakasa ofuna irisiti yo kubanga etiketi kw'onoowangulira ebirabo ssemalabo omuli zipikipiki laptops zifridge ne safari y'abagala n'ababiri okulambulako mu Uganda ku bwereere. Irisiti yo gikuba ekifaananyi okiteeka ku URL website oba ku mobile app ofuuka obukuba nnamukisa gy'okoma okuteekayo irisiti ennyingi n'emikisa gye gy'okuwangula gye gikoma okweyongera. Ebisingawo bisange ku mikutu gyaffe egy'oku mutimbagano.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Ginger Tea drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Juko.
Yo.
Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning, Uganda. Well, very many thanks for joining us this morning. We're coming to you live from UBC studios this morning, and we want to ensure that we can get you into a Tuesday, quite a wonderful one. But of course, we'll also be looking at what is happening around us, whether it will still be a wonderful one or maybe something to actually be concerned about. My name is Mollen, Kenyena, and of course I have the team of the gentlemen here with me in studio, and we'll be making sure that we can give you everything we can about what is trending in the country. But talking of which, we are also seeing a lot of concerns coming from Hoima. That is when it comes to the national, to the referral hospital in Hoima. Now, it looks like workers out there, and of course also the patients and the people working in the hospital are concerned they do not have enough equipment, enough medicine, and the manpower to actually be saving lives the way they should. And of course they are putting out a concern and of course a voice to government and the ministry to make sure that they can come to their aid and obviously provide enough care like they should. But also from yesterday, I think there are a lot of talks about expired degrees. Now, I don't know, this list seemed to have a lot of universities, but people singled out Makerere University because I think most of the courses were coming from there. Now, at this point, no one thinks they're safe after the University of Cambridge did reject some students based on the fact that they actually have expired degrees. But also looking at the list, everyone is wondering, okay, I didn't know this was happening. Now, this is not only in Makerere University, a lot of universities were also on that list. Now, at this point, I don't know who has, what is the opposite of expiry? I don't know. I want to bring in Felix here. Felix, good morning. Do you have an expired degree? Good. Even a master's. I even saw PhD on that list.
Yeah. I think the word used has not been appreciated in the right context. When they talk about expired, it's you see, the English appreciate their grammar than some of us Africans. So for us, we are used to something being expired related to milk, the things we buy on shelves and whatever, but it's quite deeper than just that, you know. So that's something that it shouldn't worry people. I don't think it's a biggie in my opinion. It's something that's been rectified. We have seen a statement from Makerere and many other universities in Uganda, the likes of Nkumba, UCU. They have come out to explain some of these things. But many processes.
It's also confusing.
How?
What happens next?
No. Here's the thing. You see, there's supposed to be academic reviews, which are periodical. Most times they are given 5 years. This is definitely about the changing trends in practice and, you know, studies and all that. So some universities, because that process is quite rigorous and expensive, it involves research and what. Some universities don't actually go into it. Some, you know. And this is deliberate. Actually, when you look at the data from Professor Barnabas Nawanga, if that's the true one we are seeing on social media, he acknowledges there's been a bit of laxity on the side of the university in terms of upgrading some of these. But it's a remediable challenge. I don't think people should be stampeding, causing mayhem. It's something we always remedy in academia. In the academia, it's remediable. One of the things you must also appreciate that in as much as we have colonial standards of appreciating academics, most recent, because when you look at the University of Cambridge in conjunction with the national curriculum, sort of like in charge in Uganda, there are many things they look out for. And if you're keen to note, for example, if you look, there are some courses that will shock you, you know, and others that won't shock you. So it's, I don't really think it's a big deal. And I don't think people should be worried.
Well, it's matters of accreditation, and if there are errors, we hope that they are rectified. But to think that actually, because at each level, the university, you're paying the National Council of Higher Education, now we're wondering why they didn't take it upon themselves to actually rectify this, go accredit some of these courses. There are people that are looking at the list and their diploma is expired, their degree is expired, their master's is expired. People are stressing. I am telling you.
Do you mean to say what was studied in let's say 2000 is expired? You know, our studies
is confusing because they're also talking about 2016, the courses that were taken after 2016. Now, what does that mean for those that did the degree before?
I don't think it should be causing mayhem. It's not a big deal, in my opinion.
Okay, we'll take it as that. Robert, are you worried? Or do you have any concerns about this?
Well, good morning to you. Good morning to our viewers. Thank you so much for waking up with us. At first I was worried until I spoke to the Vice Chancellor of Makerere University. That was yesterday, though he told me he was traveling. But at least one thing he assured me is there have been certain things that had to be ironed out where there was a bit of laxity, and of course also the National Council for Higher Education, a bit of certain things, but he assured me that it's something correctable, just like Felix said, and I know we shall have him hopefully when he returns to Uganda. He was traveling abroad yesterday. But I don't see any need or cause for panic. Definitely, if you don't have the right information, you would fidget, but it is something correctable, and people should remain calm. It's going to be worked upon.
Well, we hope so. We hope so. We hope that it's worked upon, because it's one thing to talk about. This is what we're going to rectify, and then regardless they don't. So I hope so they will actually come through. But we also have other stories making rounds across the country, and of course we're looking at what could be concerning to you, and obviously any other Ugandan what is making headlines as well. We'll be looking at some of that in our print media, but we start with the local stories. Robert, what do we have?
Well, we look at Uganda join in a bid to launch AFCON. President Museveni and the first Lady Janet Museveni, also Minister for Education and Sports, launched the Uganda's joint bid to host the Africa Cup of Nations AFCON tournament at State House in Entebbe. President Museveni welcomed the idea to host AFCON in 2027, but warned youth not to get lost in sports and forget other income-generating activities. President Museveni said that sports promotion is good for health. He also noted that sports are also a source of entertainment for players and speculators, which is better than going to bars and indulging in other bad behaviors. President Museveni further said that for East Africa to come together and host the Africa Cup of Nations in 2027 is a good idea because it is another decision that will promote and publicize East Africa and also promote tourism.
Nanagai Natasha, a student at the university who was mistakenly shot after being confused with a burglar, is now out of danger and under observation at Mulago Hospital. Now, new findings from the police indicate that a border rider who transported Natasha to her Obi's residence provided misleading information, resulting in her ending up at her wrong house. Now, this unfortunate incident happened in Mukono.
And moving on, the National Unity Platform Party President Robert Kyagulanyi has called for unity regardless of political differences as an avenue for creating a strong political force. Kyagulanyi was speaking at the first National Youth Convention on the theme Awakening Engines of Change. The convention, which attracted NUP supporters countrywide to the party headquarters in Makerere.
The former FDC president, Dr. Chiza Besigye, accuses police officer led by the late AIGP Andrew Felix Kawesi of violating his rights and torture during the 2016 general election. Now, before the Uganda Human Rights Commission Tribunal, Dr. Besigye, who alleged illegal arrests and detention without charges, wants compensation and those responsible to be held accountable.
To the international scene, Buckingham Palace has declined a request to return the remains of an Ethiopian prince who came to be buried at the Windsor Castle in the 19th century. Prince Alemayehu was taken to the UK aged just 7 and arrived as an orphan after his mother died on the journey. Queen Victoria then took an interest in him and arranged for his education and ultimately his burial when he died at the age of 18, but his family wants his remains to be sent back to Ethiopia. Now, it was not right for him to be buried in the UK, that is according to one of the royal descendants from Ethiopia. And in a statement sent to the BBC, Buckingham Palace spokesperson said removing his remains could affect others buried in the catacombs of St. George Chapel in Windsor Castle. Russia's forces are battling a cross-border incursion by fighters described alternatively as either armed Russian opposition groups or Ukrainian saboteurs who crossed the Ukrainian frontier in what appeared to be one of the most daring attacks on Russian territory since Moscow's war on Kyiv began 15 months ago. The governor of the Russia's Belgorod region, that is Gladkov, said Monday that a Ukrainian sabotage group has entered Russia's territory in Granivrom district bordering Ukraine and was being repelled by local forces. Away from that, a week-long ceasefire period agreed by Sudan's warring factions and designed to allow the delivery of an aid that has begun after the army conducted heavy airstrikes across the capital Khartoum against its paramilitary rivals. The ceasefire, which was agreed on Saturday after 5 weeks of fierce battles between the army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces (RSF), was due to take place at 9:45 p.m. on Monday. Now, the ceasefire deal includes monitoring mechanism involving the army and the RSF, as well as representatives from Saudi Arabia and the United States, which brokered the agreement after talks in Jeddah. Though fighting has continued through previous ceasefires, this is the first truce to be formally agreed following negotiations. Now, in climate news, some 2 billion people, or more than a fifth of the global population, will be exposed to dangerously hot temperatures by the end of this century if the world reaches 2.7 degrees Celsius of global warming, according to research that outlines human cost of climate change. Reducing global warming from 2.7 degrees to 1.5 degrees, as sought under the Paris Agreement, could reduce the population exposed to unprecedented heat, those living under an average annual temperature of 29 degrees or higher, by fivefold, which is protecting a sixth of the world population by 2100. Well, obviously a lot happening within the country and of course beyond, but also this morning we want to remind you that it is good to prioritize your health and take care of yourself, which is where Uncle Bob here comes in to spread the gospel about health.
Indeed, like you've said, prioritizing your health should be your number one priority. Why? Because it is a healthy body that is productive, and of course you can only enjoy life when you are healthy. Now, these are not treatment, neither are they medicine, but they are immune boosters. So they simply empower your body to be able to fight off a number of diseases. Just 1,000 hallelujah tamarind, or hallelujah jinga tea, or hallelujah banana juice. Get yourself one from any supermarket, any retail shop. I guarantee you, you will give testimony of the results.
Well, also in our dailies, Felix will be giving us some of the top stories that are shocking or are actually, coming out today. Felix, what do we have?
Well, in the Daily Monitor, we're looking at basically the big stories. Now, universities face the heat over expired courses, and sadly, judiciary driver sent to Luzira for remand. Now, MPs put government in a sport over over money given to Rabogo team. Now at 10 years, Kabanda dreaming big in swimming, and of course a couple of opportunities for some of you looking at what deals are there. Now, police to probe death threats to lawmakers, and among the 6 mental health checks for all, and once vibrant Malabar border now quite sleepy.
Well, of course, we'll also be giving you much more of some of the dailies that are coming up right later on. But for now, we'll be going into our inspiration song of the day, just to, get you started, and a little bit of warmth for this morning. When we get back, we'll be looking at a topical discussion for our newsreel this morning. And of course, later than that, so I'll be taking you through more of the programming, right from the agenda as well in there, the traffic updates, the weather updates, and of course with the sports that will be coming in later on. But for now, we'll be taking a short break, get into the inspiration song of the day, and then we'll be back with our newsreel. Good morning.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning, Uganda. Well, very many thanks for joining us this morning. We're coming to you live from UBC studios this morning, and we want to ensure that we can get you into a Tuesday, quite a wonderful one. But of course, we'll also be looking at what is happening around us, whether it will still be a wonderful one or maybe something to actually be concerned about. My name is Mollen, Kenyena, and of course I have the team of the gentlemen here with me in studio, and we'll be making sure that we can give you everything we can about what is trending in the country. But talking of which, we are also seeing a lot of concerns coming from Hoima. That is when it comes to the referral hospital in Hoima. Hoima now. It looks like workers out there, and of course also the patients and the people working in the hospital are concerned they do not have enough equipment, enough medicine, and the manpower to actually be saving lives the way they should. And of course they are putting out a concern and of course a voice to government and the ministry to make sure that they can come to their aid and obviously provide enough care like they should. But also from yesterday, I think there are a lot of talks about expired degrees. Now, I don't know, this list seemed to have a lot of universities, but people singled out Makerere University because I think most of the courses were coming from there. Now, at this point, no one thinks they're safe after the University of Cambridge did reject some students based on the fact that they actually have expired degrees. But also looking at the list, everyone is wondering, okay, I didn't know this was happening. Now, this is not only in Makerere University, a lot of universities were also on that list. Now, at this point, I don't know who has, what is the opposite of expiry? I don't know. I want to bring in Felix here. Felix, good morning. Do you have an expired degree? Even a master's. I even saw PhD.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning, Uganda. Well, very many thanks for joining us this morning. We're coming to you live from UBC studios this morning, and we want to ensure that we can get you into a Tuesday, quite a wonderful one. But of course, we'll also be looking at what is happening around us, whether it will still be a wonderful one or maybe something to actually be concerned about. My name is Mollen, Kenyena, and of course I have the team of the gentlemen here with me in studio, and we'll be making sure that we can give you everything we can about what is trending in the country. But talking of which, we are also seeing a lot of concerns coming from Hoima. That is when it comes to the referral hospital in Hoima now. It looks like workers out there and of course also the patients and the people working in the hospital are concerned they do not have enough equipment, enough medicine, and the manpower to actually be saving lives the way they should. And of course they are putting out a concern and of course a voice to government and the ministry to make sure that they can come to their aid and obviously provide enough care like they should. But also from yesterday, I think there are a lot of talks about expired degrees. Now, I don't know, this list seemed to have a lot of universities, but people singled out Makerere University because I think most of the courses were coming from there. Now, at this point, no one thinks they're safe after the University of Cambridge did reject some students based on the fact that they actually have expired degrees. But also looking at the list, everyone is wondering, okay, I didn't know this was happening. Now, this is not only in Makerere University, a lot of universities were also on that list. Now, at this point, I don't know who has, what is the opposite of expiry? I don't know. I want to bring in Felix here. Felix, good morning. Do you have an expired degree? Even a master's. I even saw PhD.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning, Uganda. Well, very many thanks for joining us this morning. We're coming to you live from UBC studios this morning, and we want to ensure that we can get you into a Tuesday, quite a wonderful one. But of course, we'll also be looking at what is happening around us, whether it will still be a wonderful one or maybe something to actually be concerned about. My name is Mollen, Kenyena, and of course I have the team of the gentlemen here with me in studio, and we'll be making sure that we can give you everything we can about what is trending in the country. But talking of which, we are also seeing a lot of concerns coming from Hoima. That is when it comes to the referral hospital in Hoima now. It looks like workers out there and of course also the patients and the people working in the hospital are concerned they do not have enough equipment, enough medicine, and the manpower to actually be saving lives the way they should. And of course, they are putting out, a concern and of course a voice to government and the ministry to make sure that they can come to their aid and obviously provide enough care like they should. But also, from yesterday, I think there are a lot of talks about expired degrees. Now, I don't know, this list seemed to have a lot of universities, but people singled out Makerere University because I think most of the courses were coming from there. Now, at this point, no one thinks they are safe after the University of Cambridge did reject some students based on the fact that they actually have expired degrees. But also looking at the list, everyone is wondering, okay, I didn't know this was happening. Now, this is not only in Makerere University, a lot of universities were also on that list. Now, at this point, I don't know who has, what is the opposite of expiry? I don't know. I want to bring in Felix here. Felix, good morning. Do you have an expired degree? Even a master's. I even saw PhD.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning, Uganda. Well, very many thanks for joining us this morning. We're coming to you live from UBC studios this morning, and we want to ensure that we can get you into a Tuesday, quite a wonderful one. But of course, we'll also be looking at what is happening around us, whether it will still be a wonderful one or maybe something to actually be concerned about. My name is Mollen, Kenyena, and of course I have the team of the gentlemen here with me in studio, and we'll be making sure that we can give you everything we can about what is trending in the country. But talking Well, it is Good Morning Uganda, and thank you so much for keeping it with us. And if you're just joining us, we're going into our newsreel for this morning. Now, stemming from a story that came out earlier about some of the students that have been rejected from some of the programs in Europe, there has been a concern about what is wrong. Now, the University of Cambridge being one of those universities where a student could not enroll because they had an expired program or an expired degree, did come out to list out why they did that. And of course, in doing so, they actually brought out a list of some of those programs that have expired from the different institutions here in Uganda. But also they did explain that they work in collaboration with the National Council of Higher Education here in Uganda to look at some of the programs that are still continuing in terms of accreditation, but also when it comes to quality assurance, which is why they had to take such a decision. Now, of course, the story made rounds, and we also did see that some of the universities were concerned, and among them was Makerere University, where the Vice Chancellor, Professor Barnabas Nawangwe, did come out with a statement to talk about the fact that they are doing all they can to try to rectify the situation in terms of a possibility of errors that could have been made in regard to the same. Now, he also talks about the fact that there has been laxity in terms of university colleges not following up with updating the status of the courses, but also when it comes to accreditation. And we also are concerned that now, because this involves both the institution, the National Council, and the National Council of Higher Education, who is responsible to do what, and why has there been that kind of laxity? Because at this point, it is likely causing panic to a lot of people that have graduated from these universities. And it seems like it's not yet clear, but we'll try to, dissect that and see what does this mean. And I want to bring in Felix here, because we're looking at the fact that these are institutions that are supposed to do their due diligence when it comes to, making sure that we have qualifying programs and that they are constantly accredited. Why are we saying laxity? Or how do we get into a situation where now our students are being, rejected from universities? This is a big concern right here. What do you make of it, Felix?
It's a big concern, clearly. And of course, with when you just drop such information on ears of parents who are paying tuition, students who are struggling to find a life and stability, you're definitely just going to scare them. Yeah. I think the putting out this information first, just like that, was first and foremost wrong. Two, by the way, personally, I have faced a scenario where my documents, I had to defend them somewhere out of Uganda so much. Almost, actually, I was even asked to do, they call it, some sort of like top-up course before I can be enrolled in one of the universities somewhere.
Why?
Which was sad.
Was it because of...
Yes, because of the incognizance that some of these abroad universities give to our degrees. I have had colleagues somewhere in the US, Seattle, Massachusetts, and you realize that they, for example, some of them are doctors, medical doctors, and they have to redo 3 other years for them to practice their medicine out there. Many of you have been able to travel or to rub shoulders with colleagues, and these things happen, they happen. However, there's a reason as to why we find that there's a clash between some of these international universities. Actually, even ours are international. Makerere is an international university, and the likes of its other colleagues in business. But why there is normally this challenge, I think, to deal with the fears of Ugandans. One, we must acknowledge the indifference in many things, and that is what informs the fashion of study, the style of study, and the content therein. We must appreciate. One, you can look at the most, the smallest thing being, for example, geographical difference can inform why people study what and how and where and when they study what they study. You look at the what we call socioeconomic development, the differences, the need for some people to study some particular things in some courses, yet others will not be. For example, in Africa, when doctors are studying, you must talk about these tropical diseases, for example, malaria, diseases that happen in the setting of the likes Africa. But when you go to Europe, they may be passive about studying about malaria because it is not for them one of their biggest threats. Just like some of us here, when we are studying, there are diseases we never touch, but they are probably a big deal. You could know about them, but passively, and that's the same thing for academics. One would say academically that this has been, or this and consistently, it has been an unfair approach to the expected standardization of academics. Okay, the expectation of that we are going to standardize the European appreciation vis-a-vis an African appreciation. I think it is unfair, and this discussion we have had many times in academics. For example, when you're teaching a Ugandan lawyer, there are things you'll emphasize on. There are some crimes that are very petty in Europe, yet are quite a big deal here. And again, academics is informed by many things, not just standardized approach. That only works in particular courses, but because academics cannot be done in a vacuum, it must be done in reality of the societies where we live. If you're doing accounting, unless you're studying what we call IS standards, like international standards of calculating particular transactions, that is given. But when you're looking at sometimes we don't need to take it as a generic appreciation, and this is where most of the universities have been caught off guard. For example, when you go to vocational studies, You cannot give raise the bar to a European standard when you're doing vocational studies. I've seen some courses there, for example, in institutions like YMCA. When you're looking at early childhood development, that's a course that deals with people who teach, or teachers who actually go out to teach these young nursery, pre-primary. Now, the standards can never be the same with the expectation high up there. You look at in vocational, for example, still looking at vocational studies. When you look at the various courses like tailoring, you look at woodwork, metalwork, all these things may not necessarily conform to the standard as expected because of one, as I've told you the earlier discussion, that there are many differences, geographical, economical, socio-economic, political, economic, all these ones, you know. So that's why I told you earlier, this should not cause panic. It's something that is quickly rectifiable. On the side of the National Council for Education, one would say there's been laxity from both sides. The truth of the matter is that we are expected in the academics to have what we call it's continuous appraisals on some of these academic programs, continuous. We must continuously be able to study the environment, relate it to international requirements, because we do not live in isolation of what happens elsewhere. Now, we relate it to international standards, and then we see how to modify the syllabus or the syllabi, for that matter. You know, for example, if you're doing, you can imagine people doing IT. If you don't liaise with the international standards, what you're studying is going to be useless. Because when you look at in 2000, people used in Kampala, people used to use decks. I don't know if you remember a deck. People used to put those cassettes. I don't know what they're called, cassettes. You used to watch movies, but it's a deck.
Which year was that?
Maybe in 2000, I think. Come on, you've never seen a deck,
No,
Mollen?
I have seen. I was just asking.
No, even today, the people still use them. The decks. Their time used to use cassettes. But today we are using flash. People, not even, the way people watch movies is so sophisticated. If you follow an IT person, you'll be shocked on how they run their life. Today we can speak on a watch. Today we have so there's some courses that should worry us, and there are others that shouldn't make us panic. You look at, for example, studies in relying to agriculture. I've seen their management. We must appreciate, in as much as there's need to make some adjustments here and there, but we cannot put in total disarray the fact that there are many differences, and that's what should inform our academics. Not given standards, because we are not going to get in a situation where we are going to teach things or content that is not applicable locally, yet we don't have assured space on the global. You know, for example, how many Ugandans graduate here that are employed internationally? You get the point?
And professional.
Professional. The only international employment we have more, the biggest number is in Sekadam and in Nakadam. I know I hear people came Nakadam or Sekadam. In the
we
Middle
also have
East
a
somewhere.
silent percentage.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It is very minute. And it is
minute that are in professional jobs abroad.
It's almost it's not. It's insignificant, a percentage. So, if you want to, we cannot conclusively say that this is truly valid. It is valid in their standard, but we must also appreciate the standard of our country.
Actually, we are trying to adjust our syllabus to ensure that we move away from studying what is not so relevant to us, but
also
relevant
we have to
them.
appreciate that the information that is given in the, according to the document from Cambridge, is showing that these programs were marked expired because they exceeded their validity. And obviously they are concerned, and according to their document, I could read it here, they're saying that as part of their commitment to uphold standards, they're looking at, compliancy, and the university does acknowledge the importance of being informed about these programs in order to make informed decisions regarding admissions and academic qualifications. And this is also in line with what you're talking about, Felix, because our academic structure here might not even, match the programs that are out there.
If you can just allow me, Mollen, please, in just a minute. Let me give you an example. I've been privileged to go a couple of countries. There's a place called Aberdeen. It used to be the biggest university in the world for oil and gas. All right? Most recent, it has been deteriorating very, very much because now Europe has shifted from using fuel into electro. So actually, for them, that's what informs their academics. Now, people are already shifting from oil and gas, even teaching it, because their moves are towards a clean energy.
Yeah.
You get the point. Now, you cannot say that our degree in petroleum and oil, first year we are planning to start exploring oil. We're just planning to start. For them, they are doing what you call decomposition. That when you look at the Brent Spar, the shale, the offshore exploration, they are decommissioning. They are now putting right. They have been exploring oil for the last 150 years. Now, when you go to Aberdeen University, and I was there, and because one of my biggest wishes was to study something, but told me, no. We cannot teach. We don't teach that anymore.
It's no longer relevant.
Exactly, because for us we are shifting. Now, in Uganda, we are every time you hear a discussion about oil and gas, every child is running to study oil and gas because it's what is going to be the hot cake in the next
and there are opportunities
20,
in there
25
as
years.
well.
You remember even about the oil pipeline issue. You remember it was a big deal for Europe. They what? Because for them, you get the point. So as we talk about this, we must appreciate the indifferences that come with jurisdiction, geographical, socio-economic, and political.
Well, you actually bring out a good point, because I also have, I know of a friend who is practicing medicine in the US, and the moment they got there, because they already had their qualifications here, they were practicing here, but this person had to undertake again residence to learn about how medicine is like in the US, because apparently they are saying there are a lot of diseases that we do not even have here that we don't even have here in Africa or Uganda. So if you're going to be a practicing doctor in the US, you have to learn afresh, and this person had to take residence for more 3 years. And now it begs the question of are we moving to the standard that is, world level? And that is, again, hailing from our qualifications and our academics. And I want to bring you in here, Robert. This whole issue has brought out, it's like an eye-opener to how our academic performance here, and of course how we relate with the rest of the world. What is your take about that?
Well, first I want to go Pan-African. Come on. I want to.
He had to. He had to.
I think it's me giving my ideas, my opinions.
Go ahead, Robert.
Some of us, Pan-African, we still see that the colonial powers still reign over us. We have our own institutions, our own bodies, but of course there's a mother body somewhere that will end up dictating how things are supposed to be done. I want to ask you, if a foreigner came here, much as we are a third world country, could we say what you did study? Because Felix gave us a very good background and showing the indifferences, I would say you're a medical doctor. If you had to validate your degree, did you study? Malaria is what is killing us.
Yeah, in Africa.
In Africa. We have issues, go to Busoga Jiggers.
Yeah, something that has never been heard of in Europe.
Yes,
by the way
so many of these. So if we are to look through your course units, your what, wouldn't we say yours is not valid here? We'll look at the Asian tigers. When you go to countries like China, for example, do you want to tell me that China subscribes and this would be a big deal to China?
The curriculum from
Cambridge?
Cambridge.
Would it be?
I don't know.
Mollen, do you think it would be? Would this be maybe a big deal for Russia? However, that said, notwithstanding that
But
we
they
must
also
be able...
mentioned that for all universities in Europe, and then they said North America
when you look at this
other parts of the world.
When you look at this document, it's selective, my dear. It talks about
Europe and then North America,
North America.
Said other parts of the world,
but
they did not specify.
not saying that all. That's why I asked you, do you think this works anywhere in China? Notwithstanding the fact that we must be able to produce a student in Uganda that is competitive globally.
Yes.
That is something I accept and I agree with. That you should not say that for us, when someone studies in Uganda, they can, there are courses that only apply within East Africa. No, but I think we should open our eyes bigger, deeper, and see how do we also position ourselves to say it is important to produce a student who is competitive, and we can be sure they're not going to have such problems. One, looking through this document, I see a lot of laziness.
From which side?
The national higher education, national curriculum for higher education, the institutions, and partly to the students that did these courses. What must you do? Firstly, now we are looking at students who have been affected by this document and those that have expired courses. Because there's a remedy to this.
Oh, but you're bringing in students saying that you're seeing laziness also on the side
yes,
of students.
because
how were they supposed
according
to be aware
to the National
the
Council of Higher Education, this is what, firstly, they may choose to, because they're giving you remedies, they may choose to undertake a personalized private program approval process involving the relevant entities such as the National Council for Higher Education, the educational institutions offering the expired programs, the Ministry of Education and Sports, an accredited law firm, and others as required. It encompasses on the student that there's some effort you have to do. Then two, it goes to also the institutions. Now, when I had a small interaction with the Vice Chancellor of Makerere University, he said first he did admit that yes, this situation is there, but there has been some bit of laxity and maybe delaying. Two, the National Council, when you look at this document, provided this on the 20th of May 2023. So, for people who go to university, how will they know if for you take long to bring this information? Two, those that know or get to know, have they been assisted? Because it's a fairly long process for you to collect this, you know, validation. So that's why I'm saying that there's lack of information, but also there's where we can hold some people accountable for either sleeping on job. Because education, this is one's future. It is not something you look at and can come to the public and say, well, it is a tedious process and we accept, we take the blame partly, but that is something we can't correct.
And also, Robert, you have to also remember that, like you're saying, the universities are the ones that are putting out these programs, because no one gets admitted to the university for a program that has not been, you know, advertised. So they continuously continue to put these programs for students to be admitted, knowing that they had to do their due diligence in accreditation. Now the question is, how does that, what is the standard that the universities are showing right now? Because it's not just Makerere. We're looking at how our academic standards are being upheld in most of these institutions across Uganda. And that's the big question right there.
Mollen, you see, every university or every academic institution must have a review committee, academic review committee. I've been blessed to sit on a few for some universities, even for YMCA, UMI, and it's supposed to look at what is outdated, what you're calling expired here. The true word is outdated. Not that, I don't know why they chose to use the word expired, because I think the intention was to scare people, but the true word is outdated. Now, there's nothing wrong for something to be outdated. That's why I wrote an example of a deck. But people were still using decks. But
just hold on a little bit, Felix, right there. When you say outdated, because even is it bachelors of law? What do they mean outdated? Does that mean that in that particular institution?
Now, when you talk about bachelors of law, let me tell you what seemingly comes to life. One, you should take note that inside the course of law, there are about 50-something course units. Yeah. In year one, you can do about 12. Year two, you do about 10, depending on how the school is structured. Now, there are some course units in there with content that is no longer applicable. For example, in Uganda, we have something called the Nguliro. Nguliro of something 1930 something. Between you and me, you have been struggling with the Computer Misuse Act of when? 60 when? You get the point. So then you can look at the fashion of study. When you go to a law school, at what point do you introduce these law scholars, moots? The things that render a course to be what they are calling expired. But you cannot say bachelor's of law is expired.
That's my concern right there.
That's not
Why
right.
don't they just expire the course units instead of expiring the entire
because what makes up the course is the course units. You cannot.
So reintroduce
in this case,
the new
academics
one.
is key.
Yeah,
For academics, it is important for us to take the aspect wholesomely. That's why there are some what's called foundation courses. For some of you who have done some of it, you go to some of the masters like what we offer in different, like they're what you call foundation. That without this one, this won't be a law course. For example, if you don't do legal theories, if you don't do criminal law, civil law, procedure, criminal procedure, civil procedure, law of contract, land law, those are the foundational courses. You get the point. So you cannot say that if anything is wrong with those ones, the course has a problem. When you go to some of you who have done management, I've seen some people bring on masters in management. You look at things like research methods. If those foundational courses have a problem, they will render the whole, because they're the foundation, just like the word is. But there's something I want us to agree. Guys, in as much as we are taking respect, National Council of Higher Education and this Cambridge International, whatever institution of what, there's something we must agree. We teach things that are relevant to current times and prospected times to come. And it cannot be, we cannot teach things in anticipation of what people have cast on us. The same thing Robert was saying here. In as much as something would be good to be taught in Europe, it may not necessarily be or as a must or obvious important for us to teach it here. We must agree that. In as much as there's going to be need to do this whole check on the syllabuses or the syllabi, these, rechecking all the time, additions and subtractions, we must agree. For example, and this is a colonial problem. I don't know why these people are also bringing us this
Now I agree with you 100%.
This clandestine thing. This is scary, and I want to tell people out there watching, students and lecturers, and please don't be intimidated. This is a problem we can cure together. As I've told you, and as the Vice Chancellor said, this is a shared problem. Both the regulators and the institutions. I can imagine, let me tell you the cost of reviewing a course. You're not going to bring these one-on-one academic machan. No. You need professors, you need doctors, people to do research and travel internationally. Some of the challenges institutions face are finances. One of the universities I work with, we have been it's called reviewing the PhD. It's coming to 2 years. But because of facilitation, so the PhD has been put on hold for about now 2 years.
What exactly is the National Council of Higher Education in Uganda doing? If that is in their jurisdiction,
yes, it is supposed to work in collaboration with universities. And that's why I think most recently they have been focusing on accrediting universities for us to have all that a bit of more numbers. Because one, international universities don't take people from universities that aren't accredited. That's the first thing. Yes. People have been struggling. Also, universities here don't take people from institutions that don't have charters. You know, there are all these issues. I think also the National Council of Higher Education has challenges, its own challenges. And one of them is also finances. Reviewing some of these and making recommendations means you're going to employ people, you're going to facilitate people. For example, you've seen how these people who studied want to be paid. A professor today is being paid how much? Over 15 million, we have been told. Doctors. Now, the challenge is also finances. Universities cannot afford some of these processes. But believe you me, I think now that there's been this wake-up call, you're going to see universities interest themselves in finding a couple of solutions. But in the meantime, students don't go out of school. Don't run away thinking I've seen already memes all over social media attacking this university. You've said earlier, Makerere is the biggest university under attack. I think it is because of it being an ivory tower, which you can't take off it anyway, whether you like it or not. But we just need to work together as institutions and support each other. More so, the council should support universities in actualizing this. But there are just a few knots to tighten.
Well, obviously, a lot of notes actually to tighten.
No, they're just
I think they're just
well,
people shouldn't be worried. There's no need for alarm. If you studied your course and it has come out there, now this is the funny thing. You see someone, you're saying this one's course is expired, but he's a manager, he's a bank manager. So
one of our viewers here.
You know, so I think it's something we can handle.
One of our viewers here is saying courses cannot expire. It is up to the institution, and he's saying when taking in institutions, when taking in students for a particular course, as well, knowledge can never expire. So are they expiring knowledge as well? That's because the big question right there. Earlier,
that the doctors who studied in 2000, in 98, the Professor Kagwas, the Dr. Kasirias, the Dungu, the Damu leaders, the Opolots of this world, the Businje, are they expired? But they're the best we have.
Another one coming in right here. Another one coming in right here, and this is Cricket Derek saying, I think we all build our education sectors according to our differences in nature, social and economy. And he says, unless Europe wants us to tap into their sector as well, because if they start trashing our programs saying that they are expired, how sure are they that these are not relevant to our societies? And he says if they wanted enhancement, they would have used another word other than frustrating.
And just Mollen, a quick one. You see, I believe one of the things we are struggling with today is our syllabus. Do you know why? Because that's why you're seeing lower secondary, then primary renewal. Why? Because it wasn't tailor-made for us. And that is why we're having people who go through school and they have to reach all the way to university to be relevant. So now our government is saying, how do we have a syllabus that is applicable to us? I believe when times change, we can get there. I just want to give you a small example. I'm so much into animals. About 5 years or 10 years back, Makerere and all our institutions that are churning out vets, they had never specialized in what we call small animals, because they weren't a thing here. Small animals, I mean cats and dogs. So it was very hard. They would do maybe goats, cows, those big animals. So it would be very hard for you to get a veterinary doctor who understood these two animals, cats and dogs. Today, in Uganda, there has come a middle class and people who understand and more of this. Now, that has been included. So, we should have education that answers our problems, is relevant to us, and addresses our challenges. Much as we may yearn, Felix used the word, we can't say let's produce anticipating. You know?
But also looking at a global standard. If we say let's just teach our students what is beneficial to us and you know, our culture, we are looking at a global market when it comes to people. Even employment actually was mentioned. It's not just the hindrance in terms of, you know, furthering your qualification or academics, but also it could hinder someone from getting employed.
If you don't mind,
you cannot say we are sectoring out our students to be employed within Africa.
No, when they get there, what you're saying, don't call what is this expired. When they get there, you can have your addition courses, but not coming out as a global regulator.
I would want to give you an example
to declare
of something. One of the examples you gave in medicine about how people have to take resident courses when they travel. You know, when we are teaching people, and now I speak directly from that bracket, when we are teaching people, we teach them, their studies, every level has its own intrinsicness. When you're at, let me talk about higher education. When you're at undergraduate, we teach you for the general appreciation of a discipline. Now, if a discipline calls on to you international standards, you will learn them. For example, lawyers will do a course to do with international economic law, international human rights law, international, you look at international cyber law, you look at international, for example, East African community law, all these ones at that level. But when people go higher into appreciating a discipline, for example, if you go to master in a discipline, they choose. And now, that's a personal thing. You cannot bring an aspect of global appreciation and teach it at a general level. Because the assurance, and you see, we cannot be fetching far from the reality. How many people, the thousands who churn out here, are appreciated on global market? Secondly, do our standards of employers in Uganda reach the global standards of practices? Apart from specific courses, which I told you, like accounting, where you have SI standards, when you go to corporate governance, when you go to medicine. But the other courses, you only give the generic. Now, until someone is taking into an intrinsic appreciation of that course, for example, like people who go ahead to study masters, people who go ahead to study PhDs, that are not even post-PhDs, to authoring and scholarly material for that matter. But on a general aspect, you may not bring, for example, someone doing, let's say someone is doing tailoring, has a diploma. Hakati, you want me to teach them how to sew a queen's veil of England? You want me to, like Kardashian one?
Yeah.
If I give them the general standard now, unless in that course is an appreciation, they say, maybe, and there are normal course units within that also share, for example, international. As I've told you, in law, you look at those international Geneva Conventions, national human rights law, whatever. But generally, we agree that there's a problem. Mollen and Robert, there's a problem, truly, which we are trying to remedy, as a matter of fact. But
well, really,
we must not also rush. We must not. Before we rush to adhere to international standards, let's adhere to local needs. We must prioritize local needs. Education, Ugandan education must be tailored to answer Ugandan problems before it answers global problems.
well,
For me, that would be my concrete submission towards this that is going on. Let's first focus on answering our local needs, because we are definitely wanting before we can answer the global standards.
Absolutely, and we also have to acknowledge that there is a lot that we can do to better the situation and not find ourselves in such a situation where we have to expose the fact that there has been laxity here and there, and some of the things could actually be easily addressed. We also have some of our viewers coming in. Peter Kintu right there says that there is need for research and the money that is needed to finance some of these things. Especially, I think he's also referring again to the National Council of Higher Education. They need to be doing a lot, and maybe that's when they can look into the responsible ministry to provide them with the money to do the research and do the work as it's supposed to be done. But also away from that, we want to look at what is happening with our dailies, that is in our neighbors right here, in some of the papers that have come out this morning. The Daily Nation right there showing Ruto saying, "I am no pushover." That is Uhuru telling Ruto actually. And of course also some of the stories in there, Azimio leader Raila Odinga, Martha Karua and Kalonzo attended the event, and that's where Uhuru was speaking. Battle for Jubilee Soul and party cleanup as factions led by nominated MP also throughout in charges. Rebels fight back, and in education, leadership crisis hits varsities as terms of VCs and councils lapse. A lot in there that is to be looked at. Taxation, activists to protest over, that is the punitive taxes, and of course you can get more stories in there, as also MPs seek shillings 2.5 billion for schools cooking gas project. And crossing over as well to Tanzania, we look at the Citizen, where the big headline they are also showing right there where the bulk of Works Development Fund will go. That is the Citizen this morning. And of course some of the national stories they're showing, experts suggest ways of saving biodiversity, and also looking at national support. US pledges $40 million for that is the Zeba Blue economy. And in business talks, foreign investors boost their turnover. And of course some of the stories as well. I'm going nowhere, says Uhuru Kenyatta. That is still a story as well in the Citizen. $46 million boost for Moha's medical academic city plan, and also much more as government launches diaspora card. A lot of stories to catch up right there in some of the papers crossing over our border, also here in our dailies. And of course we'll be giving in more discussions for this morning as we'll be looking at the agenda that will be coming in later on. But also right now we'll be taking a short break. When we get back, we'll look into the traffic situation as well as the weather update, and also remembering that at the top of the hour we'll also be looking at more on Good Morning Uganda Extra. For now, we take a short break. Good morning.
Eyange irisiti tompa bidara irisiti ojja kumpa irisiti tompa bidara irisiti ojja kumpa
tompa birala mpa irisiti yange kyekyo kakasa nti ofuna irisiti yo kubanga etiketi kw'onoowangulira ebirabo ssemalabo omuli zipikipiki, laptops, zifridge ne safari y'abagalana ababiri okulambulako mu Uganda ku bwereere. Irisiti yo gikuba ekifaananyi okiteeka ku URA website oba ku mobile app, ofuuka obukuba nnamukisa gy'okoma okuteekayo irisiti ennyingi n'emikisa gye gy'okuwangula gye gikoma okweyongera. Ebisingawo bisange ku mikutu gyaffe egy'okumutimbagano.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
The Magical Egypt Tour 2023 is here. A heavenly miracle waiting across the natural and divine attractions of Egypt, such as Cairo, Giza Pyramids, Saqqara, Memphis, and many more that will offer the gift of a lifetime. The chance to unlock all of the hidden powers of mind and soul, gain the enlightenment of the past and the future, and develop the power of healing. Departure will be Friday 16th up to 23rd June 2023. Basic package starting at $1,200, 8 days and 7 nights. To register, come to Gotove Tours and Travel at Nalkwego Complex Suta, UG Extender, George Street, Nakasero, or call +256 758 530 059 or +256 784 568 392 or WhatsApp +256 782 556 078. Only few slots are left. Powered by UBC Television.
Glow as
as you are with the new Spark 10 series smartphone from Airtel in partnership with Tecno. Own the timelines with picture-perfect selfies using the 32-megapixel selfie camera, 256GB storage, G88 gaming processor.
The Spark 10 smartphone comes with free 3GB from Airtel, so you can stay connected to a world of possibilities. Dial *100 *5# to enjoy free data.
Airtel, a reason to imagine.
In partnership with Tecno. Stop at nothing.
naye ddala oyagala kuba akinga okuze kuvuga ennyonyi okakasa gwe kayongo ovuga ennyonyi nsemesa kuvuga ennyonyi
Uganda Aviation Expo 2023 mwoleso gwa nnyonyi nga guli ku kisaawe Entebbe. Leta abaana balabe bayige ku misomo gy'ebyennyonyi nawe omusubuzi omutambuze oba oyagala okulambula Uganda jangu okuyingira shinja emitwalo 5 ennyonyi ya mitwalo 2 ate mu abagala VIP emitwalo 13 baasi zino zidaboddeeka zakubanona ku City Square ebusega ku Express Highway ne Nambole obutasukka ssaawa 7 otambulira bwereere amasomero agayigiriza abaana ebyennyonyi muleeta abayizi mu Uganda Aviation Expo 2023 wali Entebbe ku kisaawe okuva nga 22 paka nga 24 June.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning, Uganda. We'll be looking at the traffic situation on the roads for this morning and looking at areas of Rubaga division, mostly coming in from Mengo side, Rubiri, and also you look at areas of Nakulabi. Now we're first looking at that is Hoima Road. If you're coming in from the northern bypass, that is via Kasubi, and of course it's through that is Nakulabi. You might need to consider there is a little bit of traffic building up as you head towards Kasubi, so that is one that could actually delay you a little bit. But right from the northern bypass through Namungona, you have clear traffic right there, and of course mostly indicated by the green lines. But then again, as you head that is off Kasubi, where there is a little bit of build up in terms of traffic towards Nankulabia, you also have that bit of clear traffic right there. And then again, if you're to branch off, that is through the road joining to Makere Hill Road, that is also indicating clear traffic with the green lines right there. But also to the upper side, looking at that is Nabulagala Road, from that side towards town, you also have quite clear traffic indicating green lines, so that could actually be okay to use this morning if you're joining into town. as well coming in from the upper side, that is from Rubaga area. Also, if you're joining in from Lunguja, you have clear roads. Kalema Road right there indicating clear traffic for this morning, and that is also joining through towards Namirembe. Also, some of the roads over there that are indicating quite clear traffic for you this morning. Now, also looking at areas of Rubiri, if you're coming in from Wakaliga through Rubiri Road right there, that is indicating clear traffic. That is also joining towards Mengo. That is one that you could consider using this morning. Now, also you're looking at if you're coming in also using Masaka Road through Wakaliga, also to the side of Natete, you do have clear traffic, and that does join into into Namirembe Road as well. It looks like you do have clear traffic right there. And of course, you look at coming in from areas of Lubaga, again, coming in from Chitebi, Kabusu, that road is also indicating clear traffic, and that goes all the way to connect as well towards, that is Mengo Road. You have clear traffic in there for you to use this morning. Of course, it does get a little bit stiffy as you join towards at some of the connecting roads from Namirembe Road. That is where you do have a bit of traffic. Chadondo Road as well, you have a bit of traffic, and that is right at the junction as you join in with Hoima Road, and that you could actually be aware of, and that would help you navigate through into town. Looking at the weather situation also for this morning, we'll be tapping in from the satellites. We did start off earlier with mostly sunny weather for much of the country, especially for the eastern sector. As well, we did have a mix of cloudy conditions for much of central, but again, we're looking at quite a rainy situation that is building up. That is for the northwestern part of the country, across parts of Yumbe towards Arua, already having a bit of clouds over the area. That is starting to bring in a bit of light showers. That is expected to continue throughout much of today morning, bringing in mostly isolated showers to northwestern parts of the country. We still have a bigger system that is across the upper side, that is South Sudan, across Juba, where we're seeing quite a very intense rains. Now it looks like that system is moving southwards, mostly westerly, so meaning that it could deposit a few of those rains towards northwestern part of the country. We're also looking at midwestern Uganda, that is across parts of Hoima, Masindi. We're starting off mostly cloudy. We have a possibility of more rains developing for much of the morning for today. As well, we're looking at the Lake Victoria Basin, and that is mostly towards the western side, where we're looking at also most of those systems starting off with rains across the islands of Lake Victoria. That is already extending towards areas of Kalangala, and of course, we see a clearing trend over there. The system is moving westwards, so meaning that we could also be looking at more rains coming through for parts of western Lake Victoria. Masaka already having cloudy weather. We do have a few of those rains coming through for that area this morning, and that will be going on for parts of Zimbabwe, Rengo as well. Gomba, we could be looking at quite a rainy one for you this morning. Also towards the Rwenzori area, where we're seeing some of those white colors and blue colors on the map. That is indicating cloudy weather with possibilities of light rains developing later on. But also there is quite a clear trend for Fort Portal and Kasese. It started off quite stiff in terms of heavy clouds, and those brought in a little bit of drizzles, but looks like that system is moving away, clearing for mostly a mix of clouds and sunshine, and we could be looking at much more of a rainy weather developing later on in the afternoon. That will be for the Lake Victoria Basin, also looking at some of the areas within western Lake Victoria, as well as the Kasese, that is Rwenzori area where we have Kasese, Wera. We could be looking at more of those actually developing over there. But also across borders, we're looking at some of the stories coming across, especially when we're looking at weather and nature. And yesterday we did have mostly that tapping into what is happening with Mount Etna, that is when it comes to the volcanic eruption, and of course we'll be looking into that story as well. But on the other hand, farmers in Ivory Coast had now can now smile. We know that Ivory Coast is among the leading exporters of cocoa, and in the last few months, at the beginning of the year, they were doing really bad because there has been a continuous crisis in terms of dry conditions, and they had to deal with that drought that affected production of Africa's cocoa, most of it coming from that is Ivory Coast. But now the meteorologists and the climate experts are saying that with the trend that is showing, they could be looking at a few months of enhanced wet weather activities, and that will boost production when it comes to cocoa, and of course generally looking at getting back on the global market. And of course they're also looking at average temperatures that have been experienced for this week alone, that is between 27 to 30 degrees in Ivory Coast, and they're saying that that could also be favorable for most of the agriculture production in terms of cocoa. And obviously the southern regions are the ones that are benefiting more right now, because that is where they're expecting more rains. Farmers are looking at the forecast for abundant harvest that will also be stretching into mid-August, and of course that's when it is expected that the dry conditions will kick in again. But until then, they are looking at taking advantage. And being also, Ivory Coast is actually one of the world's top cocoa producers, not only looking at Africa as being the biggest exporter, but in the whole world they are actually the top of cocoa production, which is why this is usually cutting across, and more research is being done on how that can be maintained, especially as we look at the extremes of climate change, but also still looking at the effects of what is happening in Italy in terms of the mountain that had erupted in terms of volcanic eruption. Most of the aircrafts have now been grounded. That is resulting from a lot of volcanic ash that has been in the atmosphere ever since Mount Etna again erupted, and this has forced even a lot of airports to close down, a lot of aircrafts that have been grounded, and much more of the flights even over Italy have also been grounded. And you look at also some of the areas that have been affected. Mexico itself did give a warning that is also related to the volcanic ash in the atmosphere, to warn the flights that could even be flying over their skies that it is not safe because of this volcanic ash that could actually result into a lot of dangerous consequences. And of course, one of the biggest airports, that is Puebla Airport, has also suspended flights since yesterday due to the falling volcanic ash in its runway. And of course, the state governor in Mexico also did bring out a statement, writing on Twitter about the activity that is extending towards the Popocatépetl region, that is also right now being looked at as one of those that could, for a long time not actually having flights in the area due to the volcano that is intensifying over that area. And of course, that is the one that is coming across as, bringing in more attention to that. But also you look at more of these natural events that have continued to happen, especially when it comes to volcanic eruption. And these are not usually forecasted as much as people would appreciate, because you do have the geologists that come in to monitor some of these volcanoes, and most of them actually continuously erupt every year. Mount Etna has been one of those that has continuously been erupting, so they of course give the repercussions of people living near these areas. But again, you do have people that stay behind and usually are affected. We're yet to give out a report on the damages that were sustained, or some of the people that have been affected, but as well the rescue operations have not been smooth due to the fact that, again, there is still more eruption going on, and with the volcanic ash in the air, there is even no flights that can actually go in there to assess the damage. So it's still quite a very vague situation. We'll leave it at that. We'll be having Good Morning Uganda agenda coming up right after this, and then later on we'll also be looking into sports highlights. Later than that, we'll look at Good Morning Uganda Extra. My name is Mollen, Kenyena. I want to wish you a nice day.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
Get away with MTN Momo Advance. Momo Advance tops up your Momo to complete your transactions. Dial *165*5*3# to apply. MTN Momo Advance is always available when you need it.
Eyo jole sesi yange eyange irisiti tompa bidara irisiti ojja kumpa irisiti tompa bidara irisiti ojja kumpa
tompa birala mpa irisiti yange kyekyo kakasa nti ofuna irisiti yo kubanga etiketi kw'onoowangulira ebirabo ssemalabo omuli zipikipiki laptops zifridge ne safari y'abagalana ababiri okulambulako mu Uganda ku bwereere. Irisiti yo gikuba ekifaananyi okiteeka ku URA website oba ku mobile app ofuuka obukuba namukisa gy'okoma okuteekayo irisiti ennyingi n'emikisa gye gy'okuwangula gye gikoma okweyongera. Ebisingawo bisange ku mikutu gyaffe egy'okumutimbagano.
Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together.
Glow as you are with the new Spark 10 series smartphone from Airtel in partnership with Tecno. Own the timelines with picture-perfect selfies using the 32-megapixel selfie camera, 256GB storage, G88 gaming processor.
The Spark 10 smartphone comes with free 3GB from Airtel, so you can stay connected to a world of possibilities. Dial *100*5# to enjoy free data.
Airtel, a reason to imagine.
In partnership with Tecno. Stop at nothing.
Previously, in most of these areas that we had prioritized, farmers would produce, but you don't access market because the roads are not there. So you have the middlemen that would have access and they persevere to go into those deep in the villages and they buy with their own prices. They can go there and set prices for you, and yet you're the ones who are producing this food. But now this time with the market linkages, people can now access market because we have bridges that were, streams that were bottlenecks to access by the farmers. It has constructed bridges, so farmers can now reach market.
Bigirwa Kalisa Samuel is my name, Chief Administrative Officer, Kalio District Local Government. Kalio District currently runs a budget of 39 billion, so we basically implement central government funded projects and initiatives. There are a number of success stories we have registered over the past period, especially in health under UGIFT, that's the Uganda Intergovernmental Fiscal Transfers Project, where we built a 650 million health center 3 at Wiyinda sub-county. It is a state-of-the-art project which is not likely to be elsewhere in the country. The other project we have to reckon with is the Bukamba City Secondary School, which we are going to commission very soon, costing about 1.9 billion Uganda shillings. And then we have also other projects in production and marketing under the production and marketing grant. And these include the 4-acre model farm initiative of the president. We have fisheries, fish farming. So government has basically invested a lot of infrastructure, a lot of funding in infrastructure development, and these projects are starting to bear fruits. We are moving as a local government, implementing government programs, basically the NRM government manifesto of His Excellency the President.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
Get away with MTN Momo Advance. Momo Advance tops up your Momo to complete your transactions. Dial *165*5 5 star 3 hash to apply. MTN Momo Advance is always available when you need it.